Hello, I am not RedTableProductions. However, this is.
I am Carl.
All right, with Carl. What am I? Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. So, all right. In all seriousness, all right. What are you playing?
So I'm playing Blue Doflamingo.
Surprise! But seriously though, you're probably the best Doflamingo player in the area, in my opinion. So, what'd you do? What happened? And what's your deck?
I've won even before the ST, probably the last 11 locals straight.
That's fair.
But yeah, doing a deck profile, just kind of showcasing all the new things that we've gotten as Blue Doflamingo players. Now that it's definitely one of the tier 1 decks, if not the best deck in the format.
Yeah, basically. All right, let's get started.
So to start off, the card that's been with Blue Doflamingo for very long, we've got 4 Peronas.
Sir.
Following that up, we've got 4 Sengokus. Right now, 1-drops are the most popular, our most important part of Doflamingo's strategy. Perona to stack the deck, obviously, like it always has, to try and get free value. Sengoku to be able to get all the pieces that you need. But because, not just that, but because they're the small bodies that are really easy to replay, to balance with certain cards like Law and Jozu in order to upkeep your advantage.
Fair.
To supplement that, we also do have 4 of the new Martial D Teach.
Oh, so you're just playing 4, okay.
Yeah, so this card's very good right now, mostly just to upkeep a lot of aggression towards decks that can't take it, try and kill decks faster than you usually can, cheat out more Dawn, etc. Because with how much advantage you're getting from bouncing Sengoku back and forth and bouncing all your cards that you don't need on the field back to your hand, you're able to still protect your board and keep up high aggression with the Martial D Teach. And you can also use it to auto-use your leader ability for pretty much free.
Fair.
Supplementing that, we have our 12 2Ks, which is 4 Buggy,
Okay.
4 Law, and 4 Mihawk.
Okay.
Law and Mihawk, I think if you're playing Teach, are very mandatory. So Mihawk being one of the cards that you can just shove up top that's still a body that can do something after the turn summon. Law, you can bounce back after you use it with Teach, so you essentially don't lose a card. And Buggy is just kind of a supplementary 1 cost.
Makes sense.
The 2K that's kind of missing from the bunch is the 4 cost Crocodile. Personally, we play really tight to the amount of Dawn that we have as Blue Doflamingo players right now, and there isn't a whole ton of need to bounce 2 costs or less. I know you used to be able to bounce your own Perona and Sengoku, but it's just not Dawn efficient anymore to do it like that. So therefore, he's been cut from the deck.
Okay.
That's kind of just like the baseline supporting cards for Doflamingo. Time to get to the main beef of it. We've got 4 of probably the second best card in our deck right now, Jinbei.
Second?
Yeah, so Jinbei, usually people consider it the best card in the deck, and I think it really shines because the other cards that it pushes out are significantly stronger when it's the second card being pushed out. Namely, the card that gets stronger when it's the second card being pushed out is the 4 cost Trafalgar Law. This card says you can bounce one of your own cards and bounce any 4 costs or less on the field. So when it gets pushed out with Jinbei, not only are you developing tempo by putting 2 4-cost bodies that are untapped, or if you're pushing Jinbei out with leader ability tapped and untapped, you can use Law to protect your own bodies by bouncing rested characters, bouncing the 1 cost that we mentioned, and keep tempo by bouncing their 4 costs, making it so it's harder for them to challenge your board.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Another new card that we got is the 4-cost Boa Hancock. Essentially, this makes it so all of our going second plays are significantly better, and our 10 Dawn turns significantly better as well. It essentially cheats the Dawn onto the Doflamingo so that you're able to do the leader ability for 1 less Dawn consistently. It's also a 6K body, it's a blocker, it stacks the top 3 to put on the top or bottom. This card does a lot.
Yeah, we lost 1 boa blocker for another.
Yeah, and then again, another 6K, we have Edward Weevil. Now, these 2 cards are very strong in their own right. However, something to keep in mind is these are 2 cards that do not have counter. A lot of the 4-cost 5K bodies do have counter, and so these cards, if you fall behind, tend to get really stuck in your hand. So this deck now focuses a lot more on upkeeping board tempo rather than just going wide and just trying to go for a game in a single turn. It still does do that, but it needs to be able to set up correctly without losing too many cards in hand and making sure you're not dead if you don't do that. Just kind of here, we have 2 of the Gecko Moria. A consistent 4 of in the deck in days past, but now with the ability to bounce back pieces that you already have with the Law, it's not as important. you'd rarely actually make it to 10 Dawn turn if you're playing your game plan correctly, especially with the new Marshall D Teach.
Yeah, I'm playing badly.
So
Yeah, I'm just gonna be honest with you, buddy.
and so it's just not necessary. And most of the time you're taking your life early so that you have more cards to play around with as well. So you're not always filling your trash with things that you can get from the Gecko Moria in the early game. So up until you reach late game, this card doesn't do a whole ton. To supplement with the Law, we have 4 Jozu. Essentially just bigger Law. It's not a 7 Warlords, but it is a bigger body. It still does bounce one of your cards back to your hand, and it bounces a 6 or less. So it's a very good card to upkeep tempo. Keep using the word, but that's really all the deck is right now. It's a tempo deck. You upkeep your board state, you kill your opponent's board state, and kill them in the process. This is really good at that. 5 cost blockers, 6 cost blockers in case of the Bonnie. Just big things that you don't want to keep on the field, like 5 cost Bonnie, 5 cost Cavendish. You set them behind by having to make the opponent replay them, or 5 cost Solid Blocker, Black Loopy, or even things like 5 cost Kaku, 4 cost Lucci, which still can be bounced by the Law, but sometimes you just want a bigger body to bounce it with. All of them, you can abuse this so hard. It's very good. But yeah, and we don't have that much room for removal cards right now, so these 2 are kind of your only forms of removal. We're also playing Pudding to counter a lot of matchups. With how aggressive that you are, or how often you bounce the cards back to your hand, more often than not, if opponents can't get rid of multiple cards in a turn, they're going to be at 7+ for most of the game. So you could just add insult to the wound. I don't know if you said that correctly, but insult to injury, that's right. And just make them shuffle their hand back. It also punishes decks like Bonnie, which this deck doesn't do particularly great against, so it's a very good stopgap for it. Black Yellow Loopy if you catch them unaware, and Nell if you catch them unaware. So many decks are really resource hoarding, taking life really early. Or if you really catch a mirror lacking, you could even do this to the mirror because they're taking all their life early. Even the existence of the card just kind of makes people play around blue differently. And so it's not the most necessary card in the deck right now, but I'd rather have it than not. And the last card of the deck is a 2 cost Perfume Femur. Very good at closing out games against decks like Black Yellow Loopy, decks that like to block her up at 0 life, like Bonnie, or even just as a way to use 2 Dawn and then attach Dawn with Marshall D Teach. It's all very good. There's so many different ways you can abuse it. It's searchable off the 1 cost Sengoku because it is a 7 Warlords of the Sea.
Oh, so it's card, not just...
It's card, not just character. But yeah, I think that this card is one of the few cards in the deck that I wouldn't mind adding more of. Although the deck list as a whole is very tight, I recommend that this is at least always a 1-of in your deck because it does bail you out of certain situations, games that you really shouldn't have the business of winning. But yeah, that's going to be the deck profile. There's so much that you can do with the deck now, so many tech options that you can choose to do. So my recommendation is always just play with what you like, develop a game plan, see what you like doing, and then hope you're the best with deck building.
All right, appreciate your time. This has been Carl and Tempo or Silver Star for the Red Table Production channel. Okay, thanks, bye.